What's going on, everyone? My name is Nicholas Merton here at DataDash, and today is September 18th of 2020. Well, folks, I hope you all are having a fantastic day wherever you are, and in today's video, I not only want to spend some time diving in to the price action of Bitcoin, as we've had a nice solid recovery over the last week or so, but outside of this as well, dive in to the craze around DeFi, more specifically, continue our conversations around the Uni token as it continues to climb. And we're going to be spending some time to talk about some developments in DeFi and the fundamental basis, as well as taking a look at some crypto ratios. We've got a lot of things to discuss, but at the end of it all, we also have a sponsored interview with Mysterium Network. It's building a decentralized VPN, really exciting project, and we'll show it real time talking with some of the team members. But anyways, guys, I want to go ahead and dive straight into the video. There's one thing I want to ask you guys real quick, and that is to fill out this form that I created for the DataDash channel. It's just a few simple questions. You don't have to even answer all of them. I just wanted to get some feedback from all of you who are active viewers on the channel, my most kind of consistent audience here. Asking a few questions like whether or not you guys would like me to do these videos live, or if you would like me to, for example, change the length or maybe talk about some certain content topics. So you can find that link at the top of the description down below under the Mysterium links. So definitely fill that out if you have the time for it. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the topics at hand, everyone. It's been a very exciting market. After what seemed like such a dramatic sell-off in Bitcoin, we've actually been able to recover a lot of those losses. Zooming in here to the shorter term time frame, we can see here on the daily chart, we built a nice basis on 10,000. A lot of people said never going below 10,000 again, even though technically price did go down there a little bit. We actually pretty much held the level, and prices have come back up. Volume has been relatively thin. It doesn't matter really what exchange you're looking at. We're looking at Bitstamp right now. But generally speaking, across the board, volume hasn't been too crazy just yet. However, we have been seeing a lot of the kind of macro acquisitions of Bitcoin. We've been seeing Grayscale continuing to stack up Bitcoin for GBTC in order to kind of reduce that premium and provide more GBTC shares. And outside of that as well, we've been seeing companies like MicroStrategy continue to come out and acquire massive amounts of Bitcoin. So again, this is the kind of stuff that we're going to start seeing, I think, through a lot of companies, especially companies who have a large balance sheet of cash like Apple. Someone really proposed this idea about what's going to happen here is as the Fed keeps printing money. We just had the FOMC meeting, basically the Fed's basically monthly or bi-monthly meeting, where they came out and basically stated, hey, markets, you're on your own, right? They're not going to be doing any monetary stimulus or additional degrees of monetary stimulus, at least as of now. And quite frankly, I think we know that when markets start to take a rut, we've seen this, the NASDAQ and the stock market generally starting to take a hit. They're going to probably inject more capital, right? And that's going to, of course, dilute the purchasing power of individual dollars. And if we get into negative interest rates, it's going to be even worse. So what is Apple going to do with that big cash pile that it rehypothecated back to the U.S. after the new tax policy that passed back in 2018? Well, they're probably going to want to put some in different assets. And I have no doubt that they're going to be looking at probably more mature assets that are well known across the world, such as gold, but they're also going to probably be experimenting with Bitcoin, especially seeing the raging success with a lot of these companies. And they're going to need something to bolster their stock being at such high valuation, something speculative to add to the equation. And I have no doubt they're going to do that. So anyways, again, I think we're going to continue to see this trend here. We're going to see a continued dry up of the supply. The amount of available Bitcoin on exchanges is decreasing steadily. And I think if we continue to kind of get back up in this range, kind of make a support around 11,000 up here. In this case, we're very much close to continuing to move higher and then break out to 13, 14K here going into late October. That'd be really exciting to see. But again, I think in this case, we've got a little bit of a ways to go. It could be early November. But again, climbing up and starting to set up for a revisit of 20K in Q1 of 2021. Now, I wanted to go ahead here and dive into some of the craze here around Uniswap. Again, DeFi as a whole has been the craze here, guys. We've been screaming to the roof about it for quite some time. But taking a look here at the chart, a lot of people yesterday who got their free Uni tokens, the 400 token airdrop that everyone got for every wallet they used to interact with the protocol, at the time being around $1,200 more than the stimulus check in some countries, or just as much as the stimulus check here in the States. Well, now Uniswap is climbing even higher. Right now, last time I checked it, it was sitting around like $4.90 something cents, so nearly about $5 in this case per token. So Obviously, do the math there. In that case, you're talking about $2,000, a $2,000 airdrop that's actually liquid. You could sell it on the market if you wanted, or you can continue to hold it and it might continue growing, right? So this is a really interesting thing that's happening here. I'll go ahead and dive into maybe like the 30-minute here so we can kind of see it. The trend built up a nice ascending triangle here. Resistance was consistent around a little bit below, 1 million basically fractions of Ethereum. And in this case, we got up. We broke above it, made it support here. Very simple TA. Continue to climb here, right? Valuations kept rising. Now we've gotten a little bit of a pullback here, and the interesting thing though that stands out to me is that the buy side volume is crazy. It's doing good. And when it comes to the sell side, right, when valuations kind of push sideways or go down, volume is relatively stagnant. Same as down here, right? We had declining volume on the pullback, right? So this to me is a really good telltale sign of what we talked about yesterday, and that is that at the end of the day, guys, the fully diluted market cap of these cryptocurrencies, such as Uniswap, isn't really what matters, right? People are taking a look, oh my God, it's already almost $1 billion cryptocurrency. And quite frankly as well, if we take a look at the total diluted supply, if we consider the total supply available, and that's going to be available at the end of it all, right? 5 few years out from now. In this case, we have a $5 billion market cap. It's way too overvalued. But the problem that a lot of people don't see is that the fully diluted market cap, as much as rationally speaking, it would make sense to consider this, markets are not rational. And along with that as well, it's important to understand that the supply and demand dynamics that determine the modern price right here, right now, are going to be much more prevalent here on the circulating supply. And this is why, for example, I've talked about this in the past with the halving event, where a lot of people say like, oh, but the halving's already priced in. It's not priced in, guys, because the day-to-day trading in this case is determined by how many buyers are coming in and at what price, and also how many sellers are generally coming in. This builds a supply and dynamic that will either drive price up or drive price down. It's a very important point to keep in mind. So in this case, Uniswap being under $1 billion, to me personally, really isn't that overinflated in valuation. I think Uniswap has earned that title and that valuation, being the one of the largest DeFi protocols. And keeping that in mind, it's not even the largest DeFi play yet, right? If you're taking a look at the circulating supply, even fully diluted in this case, it's not the largest. If you're considering Chainlink and you're in finance in this case to be also DeFi projects in this case, Chainlink is far beyond that. I'll give a good example here. If we take a look at Chainlink's current valuation, its market cap, it's in the same situation here. It's going off of its circulating supply of 350 million coins, when in reality there's 1 billion coins. So not exactly, but almost 3 times the amount of the circulating supply, which means that Chainlink is pretty much around a $10 billion cryptocurrency if you want to use that total supply metric. So again, I don't think that the valuation here for Uni, especially with the traffic it's getting, with the revenue it's generating, is too overinflated, especially if we start to see, the liquidity pools launch. A lot of that capital could probably come in. The liquidity is going to come in. There's going to be a lot of incentive for people to put their capital on the Uni platform. And it's maintained really strong dominance as a DEX, right? So anyways, again, I just think more than anything, we'll see how valuations go here over the next few days or weeks. But I think in this case, Uni being in the top 3 is not that much of a surprise to me. But anyways, again, just keeping in mind here, not getting too fearful too much in the sense of FOMO. I just think this is going to continue to tick up, and we could easily see this, I think, go up towards around $10 over the next few weeks before we get an actual substantial correction in this case. But we'll have to see here. Again, I know Uni's very speculative. It's very early on, but I'm a big fan of the protocol personally. All right, so let's go ahead here and talk about some of the fundamentals. Just do a quick run through. There's not much really to say about this, but guys, on Ethereum now we have over $1 billion worth of Bitcoin basically tokenized on the Ethereum blockchain, basically migrated over to the Ethereum chain to be utilized for DeFi through wrapped Bitcoin and other forms of wrapping Bitcoin such as RenBTC, etc. $1 billion. Look at this growth, everyone. I mean, you can't get a more beautiful chart like this. And I think it speaks to something here. And I want to say this to my fellow people who use Bitcoin and support Bitcoin. I own Bitcoin. I love Bitcoin. I've been talking about it for years on the channel here. And before that, I also was like many people, I brushed it off back in 2011 when I first heard about it. I think we've all been down that similar rabbit hole of learning about Bitcoin and why it's valuable. And I have to say, Bitcoin's monetary policy at the current moment is more favorable to Ethereum if you're an Austrian economist or you believe in Austrian economics, right? But don't doubt the reality that there are a lot of use cases for your Bitcoin rather than just simply holding them. And in that case of not your keys, not your crypto, that's not always the case when it comes to DeFi. You can have it in well-audited smart contracts where you're not trusting counterparties in this case, and things are becoming more and more decentralized. You're having oracles, you're having all types of different layers that add extra security. So I'd say don't get blindsided by this, guys. There's ways where you can grow your Bitcoin, where you can actually put it to work, and you can stack more sats, as everyone keeps talking about, right? So anyways, again, I digress. I think it's very important to keep that in mind. Hats off to the projects that have been able to bring so much Bitcoin to the ecosystem. I'd like to see more plays like Ren that have it in a decentralized fashion, but also make it simple and easy to utilize. I think that's the most important thing. Next up here, again, just kind of talking to the broad sense of DeFi here. DeFi as a whole has generated more mining fees over the last few months than anything that we've seen for Ethereum. It has started to outpace gas fees to levels that we didn't even see back in the hype of 2017. It's absolutely insane. If you're looking at the metrics, you're seeing it for yourself, guys. You can take a look at Etherscan and look at the charts and statistics. But one of the big things here is the overall value in DeFi. $9.13 billion locked up in DeFi, back to nearly where we were back at the top here. But bear in mind, you don't want to get caught looking at the dollar value. This is something that I always hit on. A lot of my close friends and people I look up to and stuff always mention this portion of not getting caught up in looking at the total dollar value. It's great to see, right? I think it's awesome, but there's a few things that are important to keep in mind. Market values of the underlying assets that, for the tokens and different types of things in the ecosystem that are tied to DeFi can go up, and that can make it give an illusion that DeFi is going up. And also, the market can go down and give you the illusion that people are withdrawing from DeFi and that it's terrible. Well, quite frankly, that's neither of the case in this case, right? We actually have fundamental growth of assets in the market. We can see here that for ETH, there was a little bit of a discrepancy here. It looked like a third of the ETH here for DeFi had been withdrawn, but in reality, this was actually money moving over to SushiSwap, and DeFi Pulse didn't have the API or basically the data feed to pull from on how many assets were under SushiSwap. They've now integrated SushiSwap. It's the fourth largest protocol by assets under management or total value locked up, and we can see here that the ETH is rebounded here actually to an all-time high here. Right here today, September 18th, the most ETH that we've ever had in DeFi, well beyond what we had back on September 4th, when again a lot of people were looking at this metric and the dollar value and they were panicking. Again, it's just a data input problem. Bitcoin has been chugging along here, right? We went from back here in late August, 50,000 Bitcoin, 51,000 more specifically, all the way up here to more than doubling that on September 18th. Folks, I mean, this is absolutely insane. Less than a month doubling the amount of Bitcoin in DeFi. It shows you people are looking for that yield and they're looking for it fast. Now, the last thing I want to talk about here to summarize the update is to go through some crypto ratios. I know I haven't done it in a while. Well, I wanted to go ahead and talk about some ones you guys should watch here. It doesn't mean that you should go long on any of the cryptocurrencies. They're just some I'm keeping my eye on, and I wanted to share it with you guys because you all know I like to share what I'm watching here, right? I want to provide as much value as possible to you guys. So, taking a look here, RLC to Chainlink, bouncing off of the line of support here in early September that it did 2 times in the past, looking like it might be setting up for another rally here. I'm really expecting here, one thing that I've noticed is that as we go down the line here, we've been having kind of lower levels of highs here for RLC to Chainlink. So I'm assuming that we're probably going to top out somewhere around here, around 18 to 19, or 0.18 to 0.19 on the ratio. So again, you can see where I'm generally pointing on the chart, somewhere in this ballpark range here. The cycle probably going to be a couple of months here. As we've seen in the past, it's usually about 3 months where RLC begins to outpace Chainlink. Outside of this, well, we've also got NEO that I want to take a look at, dive into some of the protocols here. NEO breaking out against Ethereum here in the ratio. We can see here just taking our drawings of the chart. We had a line of resistance, line of support, now breaking out here and possibly looking like NEO is ready to take back some fire. I'm really excited to see this. And again, we've seen this with Neo's move to DeFi. Again, something we've kind of been hinting at. A lot of these protocols are going to start doing their own moves to DeFi, working on new incentive mechanisms, and also being smaller cap cryptocurrencies. On a purely speculative basis, it's going to be beneficial. But outside of that, in the sense of the fundamentals, I actually really like Neo's approach to DeFi, having kind of a full stack approach to DeFi with Flamingo. So I would look into that a little bit. I wanted to dive into ADA as well. Let me see if I can get it here. ADA BTC to Ethereum BTC. We can see here that ADA looks like it's coming down here towards its long-term line of support here. I'm going to be watching for this because at this point what we've actually been seeing is that the returns for ADA once it hits its low has been getting bigger because you have a descending line of support, and you have this peak up here, which is where ADA tends to peak out. And we know that ADA has made some crazy run-ups in the past, so I'm going to be looking at Cardano at that range down there. And then I wanted to take a look at the Oracle's index. Let's go ahead and see if we can pull that up here. I'm just going to find it. There we go. I think, oh no, so that's the DEX one. Silly me. There we go. RLC link, and also as well as that, we've got Band Protocol. Good mix of decent oracles across the market that give us a good range of price history since back in September. And we can see here that we're coming down on generally a kind of range of previous resistance from here at 55,000 down here towards 50,000. So in this case, sats, in this case, because we're doing an average index. So I think that, again, we're going to see somewhere in this ballpark range, 48% to 52%. We're well on our way there, looking like we're getting close to the bottom here. But I think it's going to smooth down into here. So I'm not really eager to just buy the dip here for a discount. I'm waiting in this case for a trend reversal and really momentum to return. And last but not least, Lend, or basically Aave to Compound. Really interesting wedge formulating here. I don't know, actually I must have been looking at a different market pair. Something must have gone wrong with my chart. But anyways, yeah, no, basically wanted to look here for, I'll have to readjust that here. I don't know why my lines are so distorted there. That's really strange. Anyways, we can see here, generally speaking, what I'm talking about. We've got a range here where right now it looks like, if we're considering the ratio here, that Lend is losing some steam to Compound. And either we're going to get a breakout where Lend continues to climb up higher, or Compound starts to grow and we see this ratio start to clobber down. And again, it doesn't mean that, again, one or the other is going to start going up or going down. It means that, it could be that, Compound starts going up rapidly and Lend starts to sell off big time, right? And that would be, this ratio going downward. Anyways, I've rambled on enough, guys. I wanted to toss some good data points to you guys in the market, some of the fundamental developments and what was going on with Uni, and just some thoughts about, what the market is doing right now, and to just kind of keep in mind a few things as we're going through this DeFi craze and there's new tokens coming out. But I want to hear from you guys down below in the comments. What are you watching right now? That all being said, I hope you guys have enjoyed the core part of the video. We're going to dive in to our sponsored interview with the team at Mysterium.network. Alrighty, everyone. So in today's sponsored interview, I'm sitting down with two good friends of mine, Mania as well as Yaro, who are working at the Mysterium.network project that are aiming to build a decentralized virtual private network system that allows anyone to connect to any access of the web, as well as to being able to have data privacy over the web traffic that they surface. So I want to go ahead and talk about this because it is a pretty big deal, and I've been actually following Mysterium since all the way back in 2017, whereas many projects have come and gone. Mysterium has still stuck around and has actually built something, and what better way to showcase that they've actually built something than use it while we're talking about it. If you can see on the right hand side of the screen, before we dive into the interview, I'm actually doing this call with Shermini and Yara right now from different corners of the world, accessing the virtual private network through Mysterium. So you can see that I've picked up a direct connection here with a unique blockchain address, and along with that as well, I can see that I have a certain duration connecting with it, a certain amount of download and upload here, and the amount of Mysterium tokens that I've paid. So I'm just really excited to dive into this, guys. I don't want to ramble on too long. Shermini, I want you to go ahead and start with you here. It's such a privilege to have you here. And I want to go ahead and just talk about, what is a VPN at the end of the day? Why do people constantly keep hearing about VPNs and get advertised VPNs? And why are they so important, not only to data privacy, but also getting to access information?
So the first problem that we're solving with Mysterium Network and with VPNs is that many people don't have the information that you have access to, and you don't have access to all the information in the world. So in a climate that we currently have, where there are protests in Belarus, where we have internet service providers that are able to shut down entire nations at government whims, and even on a lighter note, the TikTok ban in the US, we're seeing a real need for solutions that allow for people to access geo-restricted content. So that's one of the problems that we're fundamentally solving within the VPN industry. And now I'll talk a little bit about what a VPN is. A VPN is basically allows for you to establish a secure connection to other networks over the internet, right? So when you're using a VPN, you look at a list of nodes, like Nick, you've shown, and you click on a node or you click on an exit IP, and then you exit looking as though you're from this geo location. With Mysterium network, as compared to centralized VPNs, where these exit IPs are owned by the centralized VPNs, with Mysterium network, these are residential IPs run by people at their home, running node software at home. So it's really a network that's powered by the people for the people. That's how we're fundamentally different. And it's also really interesting for the use case of streaming. As we know, it's a cat and mouse game of trying to allow for geo-restricted content to be accessible. Residential IPs have proven to be one of the most under the hood. Yara will give you a more technological explanation of this, but like the most hard to identify type of IP address. So it allows for us to offer a more seamless user experience for our end users as well. So that's how I would say we're different. We're different in that we have residential IPs that are run by people, and that we have no logs because we can't log, because we don't have any servers, and all the traffic is distributed through our network.
Sharmeen, I think you did a great job of explaining, and Yara, I'm really interested to dive into a little bit of the more technical side in a moment. But as you mentioned, Sharmeen, I think you brought up a good point here. I think it's good to kind of abstract and view the differences in the worlds of VPNs with a centralized provider like NordVPN or TunnelBear, all these big VPN providers, or ExpressVPN, and something like Mysterium, because Mysterium's in a completely different plane. The architecture of how it works on the back end for a centralized VPN is you're going to these centralized silos. You can usually see them visualized on a map in most of the softwares, where I select maybe one of 3 or 4 different options in different countries. And the problem with this is that there's 2 issues, as I think you kind of hinted to, Sharmeen. Like, one, you have to worry about, okay, if it's free or really low cost, what's the real product at the end of the day? Are they actually selling my data, or are they keeping it secure as they're telling me they're doing? In most cases, I have no doubt that there's probably a lot of wrongdoing with many of these companies where they do collect data to some degree. And along with that as well, you have to consider that, because these centralized VPNs are so predictable and known by major governments across the world, in this case, they can easily still block and basically knock out any kind of traffic from reaching past firewalls or reaching towards information that they want to censor. So in the case of something like Mysterium, you actually can abstract this much greater because everything is done on an individual level. It's localized. And again, I think in this case, Yari, you'll probably do a better job of explaining this, but I'm curious to hear, on the technical front of things, how do you guys make this work? I think this is a really interesting question. And I think with all VPNs, especially us in the crypto space, we're always curious about, okay, how does it actually work in this case? How have you guys gone about building the solution?
Yeah, so actually, Mysterium Network has 2 very difficult problems to solve. One of it is a networking problem, so how to go through different firewalls, how to unlock content. So it's a censorship problem, and I would say digital discrimination problem, because not only governments are banning people from the content, but some big corporations. So we have to act as a non-natural user, not as a VPN company. And there are a lot of networking issues going through different Wi-Fi's and hubs. So a lot of issues there. But because our exit nodes are run by people, you have to pay somehow them, and you need global payment system. The problem is that when you have nodes in India, Brazil, Russia, United States, you don't have a common payment system. You have only one choice: blockchain payments. The problem with blockchain, there is another problem. It's super expensive and slow, and we are charging. You can see in your application, each minute your balance is decreasing, and node provider balance is increasing. So that's really small payments, less than 1 cent in one transaction. So we had to build a second layer solution on top of blockchain. It's inspired by Lightning Network, but built on top of Ethereum blockchain. And it's running payments in MIS token inside that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I see the clear problem there with having some kind of universal payment system, and something as well that you guys know that will be able to be transacted quickly over layer 2 that's able to provide the opportunity for pretty much anyone to not only provide this service, so you obviously have the software that makes that possible, but also to be able to earn. I mean, people aren't going to do this for free, right? So they want to have some kind of incentive mechanism. And I think it's great. I mean, like the reality is that, I can see here who I'm connecting to, and I can have multiple different options. I think it kind of builds a free market in this case to get the lowest cost possible.
Well, that's fundamental. Go for it.
I would also add that incentivization is a very important point of decentralization. Look on Tor network. It's there for more than 10 years, and they have only a couple of thousand exit nodes. In Mysterium, we grew into like hundreds of, even into 1,000 nodes sometimes in 1 year. And that's because when you say that you can earn, much more people are willing to run exit node. And Tor is just run by volunteers, which makes its adoption much harder.
Hmm. Yeah, I was gonna say in that case, like I think about a lot of peer-to-peer networks. If you're talking about like torrenting networks, and you have basically you're trying to sometimes struggle to find seeders and all these different types of data providers who will give you that information, relay it to you. The problem is, as you mentioned, there's no incentive for them to do that for BitTorrent or any of these major applications. So in this case, Mysterium is having a direct native currency for something that, again, is a multi-billion-dollar market here. It obviously needs something that is completely out of the whim of any kind of centralized payment network. So, I mean, it makes a very good set of sense here for Mysterium to have its own token. Overall, guys, like I'm curious to ask a little bit as well about the product in this case. Like, when someone gets started here, one thing that I really love about the application, I know I was telling you, Shermini, like I think it's so nice that when you first download the app, you get a little bit of Mysterium just to try it out. Like, and you can actually see real time. You can browse the web. You don't need to use any other VPN provider. This is it right here. It works, and you can top it up with more Mysterium if you need to get access to it. So in that case as well, I know we were talking a little bit about it before. Like, let's say for example, I use my Mysterium in this case, and I want to top up my account. And you guys have created not only this layer 2 solution for people to make payouts in this case, micropayments in a very sound way, but also there's ways to actually top up your account and get more Mysterium. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'll let you take this one and explain our BetaNet process a little bit, because I think there's some, like we have a couple of different networks running at the same time, so I think Yara will jump into this one and provide clarity.
Yeah.
The one which you are using actually is using test tokens, which are tokens on Ethereum testnet, Girly testnet. So it's quite easy to give you any tokens, but it's still super fast, and you just don't see this luck, because even on the testnet, you would need to wait up to 1 minute till some transaction will appear there. In our case, it's fast. It's 1 second or less. But we're really going to release very soon BetaNet, which is the same solution but run on Ethereum mainnet. It's like when Gmail released their email, it was the best email ever, but still in beta. So we are also calling it a beta. It will run real tokens, and yes, we will have some issues with the initial top up because of Ethereum blockchain. Like in Mysterium network, you need only one transaction to top up your balance, which will go through blockchain. All other transactions will go on layer 2. But this transaction could be still very expensive. But the good news is that there are some abstraction layers which we would like to build on top. So actually the payments will be almost on third layer in the future. So we could avoid the first layer totally. And also there are some people who are already building their own applications and accepting fiat and paying for node runners from their pocket. So for them, their pocket is very big, and this blockchain transaction is not an issue at all.
Yeah, I think in that case, like there's so many ways you can like kind of get creative and get around this issue right now. I mean, we've had the same issue with Digifox and stuff. We're trying to basically figure out how we deal with the extremely high gas fees. And it's so sad because, these fees right now, it's such an inconvenience for applications like Mysterium that want to be able to operate on Ethereum as a network and be able to make these payouts. So we have to go towards layer 2, and as you mentioned, abstract towards third layers and all kinds of different types of solutions where we can actually get payments through and make things run. So one thing I was going to ask you guys here real quick is, once you get the beta net going through in this case, are there any kind of big plans to like scale out the project? Is there any additional things that you're going to be working on the technological front? And if people kind of want to get engaged with Mysterium and maybe try out the application or become a part of the community, maybe even become a node runner in this case, how do they get involved with it?
You can definitely find everything you need to get involved with Mysterium Network at mysterium.network. Check out our apps. They're running on testnet. They work, as you can see from Nick using it. Check out our Node Runner software. Jump into Discord. That's where our core community hangs out. We're on Telegram. We're growing. And we're really, really excited about growing to help different emerging markets access information. That's our current goal at this stage. Is with micropayments, we see a real fit, and we will continue to grow to other markets moving forward as well. So jump in, just have a play with our app, and let us know what you think on Discord, because we want to improve. We want to offer the best user experience, because to show that crypto can have some killer depth, we need some killer depths, and we're working on it.
Absolutely. I was going around with the user experience. I think, as I told you and stuff, I like what you guys have built so far. I think what's so cool is that just being presented right in front of you, like all the different options. I don't have it here on the screen. I'll actually probably display an image here real quick just to showcase it. But you can see that you have all these different options to choose from different abstract users and addresses from across the world. And I'm excited to see how you guys continue to tweak the experience. I like how you allow us to measure by certain values in this case, whether we don't mind paying a higher cost to get a better connection, or maybe we're going for the cheaper cost and we're doing kind of low latency or low network traffic kind of activity on the web. I think
everything is free for the moment on our apps. Everything is free for the moment on our apps. So test them. Like, it's all test miss. It's free for the moment. Like, it's a good time to get in on a DApp before we go onto beta net and then implement real peer-to-peer payments. So it's there for the playing.
Awesome. Well, Shireen,
we do have real peer-to-peer payments. Just while we're on testnet, you will get much more free tokens.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I'll be Mysterium rich. I'll have 1 million. Like, I'll be a node operator and have 1 million Mysterium tokens on testnet, and I'm like, wait, what do you mean it's on testnet? Anyways, guys, I mean, this is fantastic. Like, above all, I mean, to know that the core technology is working right now, and along with that as well, that you guys are working out the payment structure. It's ironic. It tends to be that payments tend to be a big issue in like a lot of applications. As I mentioned, we know that all too well and stuff with the scalability of the Ethereum network. So one thing that I know you guys have also been working towards establishing right now is a decentralized VPN alliance with Sentinel. So I was kind of curious, what does that entail in that case, and how is this going to help you guys kind of flourish your further development and kind of broadening of the decentralized VPN ecosystem?
So when we started in 2017, we were one of the first projects, and when I jumped on board, I had a CLI clients to play with, and now we've been working with exit nodes for a year. We've been in testnet for half a year, and we see a lot of pain that comes with that kind of interplay between technology and legislation. And we see a real need for setting standards within the DVPN industry to help with guidance for exit nodes. We see Tor has come up against a few cases, if you look as well in their recent history. And so we're very excited because we are partnering with Sentinel to form this DVPN alliance. It's an open call to all privacy-oriented organizations. We're reaching out to more, and we're hoping to really become a body of influence and education for public policy, so that we can help to change from both ends, from a grassroots and from a policy, and how we look at privacy more globally.
Awesome, sure. I mean, I think that's awesome to just see more partnerships forming, because I think if projects go at this in a siloed approach, it kind of goes against everything that's, we're kind of fighting for, of collaborating and making sure we have all the firepower, I think, between all of us to make sure that this vision is met. And I think at the end of the day, there's going to be room for a lot of companies and a lot of projects to really succeed and do well, but also to meet this vision, it's going to take multiple different approaches. But all in all, guys, I mean, it's fantastic to see here that you guys have built out something. Ever since back in 2017, it was a vision, it was a white paper, a concept, and now you guys have actually built it into a real product. I think you guys should be extremely proud of yourselves for. I think this is, out of the few use cases that actually make sense outside of financial applications, this is right up there in regards to like blockchain technology and decentralized approaches to building up peer-to-peer payment networks and peer-to-peer networks for communicating web traffic. So all in all, I think you guys have done a phenomenal job, and I appreciate you both for making the time here today to talk about it.